From above, this looks like an ordinary military airfield. Two runways, aircraft shelters, support buildings, and taxiways spread across Taiwan's eastern coast. But this airbase is hiding something that you would never know is here just by looking at the surface. Directly beside the airfield is a mountain, and buried inside of it is believed to be one of Taiwan's most important military facilities, known as Jiashan Air Base. This site contains a massive underground complex designed to shelter military aircraft and keep Taiwan's Air Force operating during an attack, but with one huge vulnerability. And while much of what lies beneath this mountain remains hidden, there are clues scattered across the landscape that give us an idea of just how extensive this facility may be. We're going to explore Jiashan from above, search for the entrances into the mountain, look at what is publicly known about the underground complex, and finally try to understand why Taiwan went to such extraordinary lengths to build an airbase beneath a mountain. The airbase sits on the eastern side of Taiwan, and nearby China has been building its own airfield. We'll get into that in a future video. The base has two runways, separated by a taxiway right down the middle. Could you imagine living right here? It's gotta be loud. What stood out to me first are these two areas right here. They just look out of place, and they are right into the side of this mountain. And when you zoom in a little bit, the lines on the ground kind of gave it away. Those aircraft lines that lead aircraft around, they kind of go right into the side of this mountain here at every single one. And over here as well, the lines are a little bit better. You can see them. You can start to even see the portal right there. That's what stood out to me to begin with. And going back through the years, you can see that these lines were better drawn in some of these areas, and they can go directly into this portal right here. Now, does it go any further in here? We don't know. We cannot say for sure, but what we can say is that they can go in and come out one end. Moving over to the other side, we can see the same thing. Lines going in and out. Though we can't get a good look at the portals on this side, the lines give it away. And later, as we go into some of the articles and some of the proof, you'll see that maybe there is reason to believe that this goes in farther, but we cannot say for sure. The next thing that stood out to me are some of these roads that seem to lead into nowhere. On the far left side over here, we have some kind of main road leading directly into the side of the mountain there. And it could dead end there. I cannot get a good look at it with any of the imagery years. But to me, that looks like that continues right on in there. And the shadow, I think that's a tree line overhang, but my guess is that that's a car entrance for this. And still sticking over here on the left side, some of these pavement areas are interesting to me, especially this one here. It goes into whatever this, it looks like the top of a concrete entrance, though it could be a shipping container turned right there. I don't know, but the big pathway is interesting to me. This year here gives you a good look, though it's a little bit blurry, of these kind of roads that lead to nowhere. See that? And again, it gives you another look there. And this one too, look at how wide all that is, and it seems like there's a little bit of an overhang there. So could this be ammo storage? Could it be nothing? Could that just be a place to park a truck? Yes. I'd love to know what you think. This is the next spot I find interesting, and it's the parking lot of cars by this thing here. And over the years, it looks like the overhang appears and disappears. I can't tell if that's just a different angle on the satellite. But you see, look at the overhang there. See the shadow there? That's an overhang, and it's kind of squared off. So, and it's interesting that the cars are right there as well. Now moving over to the far right side, this one stood out to me as well. These two dirt roads kind of coming up in here, and see right there's a slight shadow which looks like some kind of overhang there. I can never get a good look at it. You see, you also have maybe a portal or a turned shipping container, but it's weird that the roads kind of lead up in there. And even in this picture there, you get a little bit of a better look, though we can't see for certain what that is right there. And this one really stood out to me here. It kind of looks like something's been cut right here, and look, a fully paved road just ending right here. That doesn't make sense, though. It could be parking, storage. What do you think? This was one of the most interesting sections of this to me. The next interesting things I found were what I thought were ventilation ducts or something to do with air movement. There's one that I think is here and right here. And those are the only two I found so far. And if you look where those kind of are on the mountain, they're a little bit higher up. Here's a close-up of the first set. And then the second set. See, that almost looks like that spins right there. What do you think of these? What is your call on what those could be? The next part is power, and up along the top of the mountain here, you can see it's way up there. You can kind of see those little lines running through there, and it's hard to see in some and easier to see in others. If you can't see it, please use the lat long and verify it yourself. That looks like power to me. Using historical aerials in their open street map layer, you can kind of see those lines running up along the mountain there. And it looks like it runs from city to city, I'm guessing. But right in between, there's the entrances 1 and entrance set 2. Look, they even have some kind of little emblem there. Looks like they have cut off something. I don't think that's a tram. I think that's a power line. And bringing that over into real imagery, here's the main line up here. And I think they've cut it to go right down in here. And it looks like this is a power pole right there, which I bet leads right down into the base. Maybe they've undergrounded it by this point in time. But at some point, I think that was a power line, or maybe it still is, and just have a hard time seeing the wires. What do you think? I also found these structures interesting here. I can't tell if these are water tanks or what they would be, but there's 1, 2, and 3, and then another 1, 2, and 3, a little bit offset. So there's the first 3, and here's the second 3. Do you think those are water tanks? Or helicopter landing pads, or some kind of old infrastructure? I can't figure it out. Now with that information, the place really starts to take shape. It's like this left side goes right in here, and this right side goes right in here. And even in the 3D view, you can kind of get a little bit of a better idea of what's happening here. It's almost like if this was underground, this may be one section right here, and this may be the other section. Or it's just one big complex. But it's weird that those are right there at the base of the mountain. And we got these roads curling up, possible water tanks, air vents right here, and power running across the top, with entrances all along the sides. So now that we've looked at the base itself, let's try to get into the proof and the why this place exists. According to a 2023 report published by Taiwan's Republic of China Air Force following a presidential visit to the base, one of its primary purposes is what Taiwan calls combat force preservation. In simple terms, the idea is to make it much harder for an enemy to destroy Taiwan's aircraft on the ground during the opening stages of a conflict. Instead of leaving fighters exposed at conventional airfields, the underground facility provides a heavily protected location where aircraft, personnel, and equipment could potentially survive an initial attack and remain available for later operations. A 2000 article published after the then president toured the facility gives us one of the clearest early descriptions of just how large this project was. The base was created by hollowing out part of the mountain, with construction taking roughly 8 years and costing more than 27 billion new Taiwan dollars. Inside are enormous tunnels that allow fighter aircraft to taxi and park underground, along with a strategic command center. Reports have suggested the complex may be capable of accommodating more than 200 fighters, although its exact capacity and full underground layout remain closely guarded. More recently, a 2022 report from Taiwan's Central News Agency gave the public a rare look at what actually happens inside the mountain. During the yearly military exercises, the Air Force released images showing crews rearming fighters underground with weapons including air-to-air missiles, sidewinders, and harpoon anti-ship missiles. These images showed that the tunnels are not simply emergency parking spaces. Aircraft can be brought inside, protected, serviced, rearmed, and prepared to fly again, giving us a much better idea of how the underground complex could help keep Taiwan's Air Force operational during a conflict. A detailed 2022 report from the war zone also helps explain why this facility was built specifically here on Taiwan's eastern coast. The base sits on the Pacific side of the island, with the massive central mountain range separating it from mainland China to the west. When the underground base was being planned in the early 1980s, those mountains provided a natural barrier between the facility and attacks coming across the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan has also practiced moving fighters away from more exposed bases in the west and toward hardened facilities in the east. In a conflict, this would allow portions of the Air Force to be dispersed rather than concentrated at surface bases that could be targeted early in an attack. And doesn't that remind you of the Austin Powers scene when he's stuck between two walls? I think he's driving one of those. And this is where we get into the main vulnerability. A RAND Corporation study of air-based defense points out an important weakness in the entire concept. Putting fighter aircraft underneath a mountain may keep them protected, but those aircraft eventually have to come outside in order to operate. The runways and taxiways on the surface remain vulnerable to missile attacks, and if they were heavily damaged, Taiwan could theoretically have perfectly intact fighters underground with no usable way to get them into the air. The entrances of the complex could also become important targets, so the purpose of the underground base is not to make Taiwan's Air Force impossible to attack, but to make destroying it much more difficult and give surviving aircraft a better chance of continuing to fight after an initial strike. Jiashan Air Base is a good example of how geography can shape the way a country prepares for war. From above, the facility does not look dramatically different from other military airfields, but once you start following the roads, taxiways, and possible entrances toward the mountain, it becomes clear that a large part of the space was never meant to be seen from the surface. The underground complex was built to give Taiwan something that ordinary aircraft shelters cannot provide: time and survivability. By placing fighters, equipment, and support facilities beneath the mountain, Taiwan can make it much harder for an enemy to destroy a large portion of its air force during the opening stages of a conflict. But the same thing that makes this facility so impressive also highlights its biggest weakness. No matter how protected the aircraft may be underground, they still need to reach the surface. They still need taxiways, they still need runways, and if those routes are destroyed or blocked, aircraft that survived an attack inside the mountain could still be prevented from even taking off. So Jiashan was never designed to make Taiwan's Air Force invulnerable. It was designed to make it harder to destroy, harder to predict, and more capable of surviving long enough to continue operating after an initial attack. And that may be the most interesting part of this entire facility. What looks like a mountain sitting beside an ordinary airbase may be actually one of the most important pieces of Taiwan's strategy for keeping its Air Force alive. Something I'm really excited to announce is the launch of the Exploring from Above merch store. This isn't meant to be a big advertisement or a push to get money from you. I just wanted to create something fun that gives anyone who chooses to support the channel something physical and meaningful in return. It actually started because I wanted to make an EFA shirt for myself, but I thought it would be cool to open it up to anyone else who might want one too. I'll be adding more designs over time, including shirts inspired by popular videos, locations we've explored, and even community requests. If you see something you like and want to support the channel, I really appreciate it, and I hope you like it. And if not, just watching, commenting, and being here already means a lot. Link in the description. I linked a book in the description. A quiet cosmic horror story about a janitor who finds a forgotten signal fragment called Zero Alpha. The signal leads him to a buried structure deep in the woods, something ancient, seamless, and not meant for human contact. When it wakes, it does not understand him, but it does classify him, and once the sweep starts, there's nowhere left to hide. Or maybe you're interested in Albatross by Greg Potter. A brilliant Silicon Valley inventor is pulled into a hidden battle over lost alien technology with the power to reshape the world. With the help of a gifted psychic, he must master its secrets before shadowy forces use it to control one of Earth's most vital resources. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed exploring Jiashan Air Base and its underground complex from above. Let me know what stood out to you the most, from the apparent entrances and roads leading into the mountain, to the possible ventilation and power infrastructure, or the sheer scale of what may be hidden underground. And if you have another strange, overlooked, or hard to explain location you want investigated, drop a pin on the community map or leave a comment below. All links in the description. Stay above it, and take care. Bye.